Welcome to the channel. I am Kay. It is almost debate night in America, and this is like the Super Bowl for mainstream media. They are all in. They are trying to analyze and decide what this debate is going to look like, how it's going to impact Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Who's your fighter? Who are you choosing, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? I personally don't have very high expectations for this debate, although there are a lot of media pundits that are saying that Kamala Harris has more to lose in this debate simply because a lot of voters just don't know who she is just yet. And there are a lot of people that have not been paying attention or following her career from a prosecutor in California to her time as vice president, although I think she's been more visible than any other vice president we've had in, say, my lifetime. And I'm old enough to remember President Biden during his time as vice president, and also Dick Cheney in his controversial past. Another subject for another day, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not sure what I'm expecting this debate to look like. Again, my expectations are very low simply because if you have been paying attention, you know exactly Donald Trump's debate style. And it's not that of a traditional candidate and people that, normally debate and prep for debates. Donald Trump is kind of like the off the cuff, I'm going to say whatever I want. It doesn't matter what the question is. I'm going to play this my way. And so far, honestly, this has been working to his advantage. A lot of takeaways from his debate with President Biden in 2020 versus his debate with President Biden a couple months ago. It's the same playbook. I really don't understand the scale that he's being graded on when he debates, but I look at these debates and I don't see that Donald Trump wins any of the debates that he participated in. But that's just my opinion. Let's move on. So I don't know that the debate stage is the platform for voters to get to know a candidate. When you are debating, you have basically seen what these candidates have to offer. Some of them are defending their records because they are running for office or because they have run for office and they have a record to run on, and they're left to defend that record and talk about what they want to do moving forward. So by the time we get to the debate stage in a normal presidential election, we pretty much know a lot about those candidates. So in Kamala Harris's case, I don't know that voters will learn a lot about her as a person or her time as a prosecutor. I think they'll learn more about that on the campaign trail. I think that should be left for the campaign trail and interviews. But the debate stage, she's going to have to defend her record as vice president, the policies that her and Joe Biden put forth. She is going to have to defend her record as a prosecutor. And I know that the issue of race is going to come up simply because that's just who Donald Trump is. So she will have to talk about those things. And I think how she answers those questions and the way in which she conducts herself will help voters get to know her a little bit better. But I don't think that the debate stage is the platform for voters to get to know any candidate. Not in my opinion. So apparently Donald Trump has been debate prepping with Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz, of all people. So this should go over very well. But his team is worried that Donald Trump's anger will come out and he will lash out at Vice President Kamala Harris, and it will tank his entire campaign. I'm not sure I believe that, because if nothing Donald Trump has said thus far has tanked his campaign, he's still polling at 48%. Then I don't think anything that he can say on that debate stage is going to tank it any more than it already has, so to speak. So let's take a look at Donald Trump's debate style. I personally do not think he has a debate style. I don't think the rules apply to him. He does whatever, he says whatever he wants, no matter the question. Let's take a look at this clip from his debate with President Joe Biden back in August. Take a look.
The topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
This is exactly why it's impossible to debate Donald Trump. He goes down a rabbit hole. And for Vice President Kamala Harris, the problem is going to be answering the question while trying to fact check all of the things that he said, which has nothing to do with the original question that was even asked. So trying to debate him in a normal or traditional way is just simply not going to work. It's basically Kamala Harris is going to have to stay on message, answer the question, and I guess occasionally plug in a fact check from all the rambling, incoherent sentences that he strung together that had absolutely nothing to do with the question. The question was simply about Russia invading Ukraine, and we ended up talking about Israel and Afghanistan. What? Like, how do you counter that? It's almost impossible without you looking crazy as well. So this is the fine line that Kamala Harris is going to have to walk. I am really not sure how you thread this needle without chasing Donald Trump down the rabbit hole. I guess the point is just, like I said, to stay above the fray and answer the question that was asked. I don't know. So while we're at it, let's take a look at another clip of Donald Trump answering a question. He was at the Economic Club in New York. He was asked if he would commit to putting forth legislation that would make childcare affordable for families in the United States. Take a look at his answer, and we'll come back on the other side and talk about it. Take a look.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. You know, I was we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that, because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare,
that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you. Very good question.
Did they just applaud that? Because, bro, what? What did he just say? Donald Trump never actually answered the question of how. Oh my gosh. This is the line. This is the fine line that Vice President Kamala Harris is going to have to walk. How do you counter that? How do you counter any of what he just said except to just answer the question that was asked? Don't chase him down the rabbit hole. Just answer the question and move on. However, you want to be able to say, I'm not really sure what he just said. I'm not really sure if that was a plan because that was an incoherent word salad. So to answer your question, I think that's how she's going to have to do it. There is literally no other way that it can be done, because to try and chase that, you would end up sounding just like him. So this is the line that she literally has to walk. OMG! This is a lot. There's also reporting that Donald Trump plans to tower over Harris in last-minute debate ask. So this is what he posted on his Truth Social's website. He said, no boxes or artificial lifts will be allowed to stand on during my upcoming debate with Comrade Kamala Harris. We had this out previously with former NYC Mayor Michael Bloomberg when he was in a debate and he was not allowed a lift. It would be a form of cheating, and the Democrats cheat enough. You are who you are. It was determined. But didn't Anthony Scaramucci tell us that Donald Trump wears lifts in his shoes? This was also a thing with Governor Ron DeSantis. So I'm really not sure what Donald Trump is talking about. Kamala Harris is, I believe, 5'4", and Donald Trump is over 6 feet tall. Kamala Harris is going to have on heels because she wears them all the time. So I'm not sure if that is a thing, but I don't think she had to stand on anything during any of the debates. I think with Mike Pence, that was a sit-down debate. So I'm really not sure what Donald Trump is talking about. If it's anybody that is going to need lifts, apparently he wears them in his shoes. So there is that. Super weird. Really? And speaking of towering over Kamala Harris, do we remember in that debate in 2016 when Donald Trump followed Secretary Clinton around the stage? That was a very weird and creepy moment for everybody. Let's take a look at that clip right quick because I think this is important.
Yeah, I believe I'm going to fix it because I agree with when the Affordable Care Act passed, premiums have gotten too high, co-pays, deductibles, prescription drug costs. It wasn't just that 20 million people got it. And like I say, 20 million people now have health insurance, the way it used to be before the Affordable Care Act.
Like he's literally creepily following her around the stage. I don't know if the debate style is going to be that in which like President Biden and Donald Trump had in August, if they're just going to be standing at the podium, or if this is going to be the debate style where they can walk around and move around the stage. I'm not really sure. I haven't read anything to suggest that that's the style of debate that it will be. But if it is, it will be interesting to see if Donald Trump takes that trip again around memory lane when he followed Secretary Clinton around the debate stage. So creepy. They are never beating the creepy allegations. They're never going to do it. They can't. They are literally just too weird. So let's take a look and see what people have been saying about the debate on social media. One person said, Vice President Kamala Harris is a trained debater, trial lawyer, examiner, and defender of her own position. She is light years smarter and more informed than her Tuesday night opponent. It is a disgrace that he is even going to be on the stage. The only reason she has the high bar everybody is talking about is because that's what we do to smart, accomplished women in this country. Even when the person on the other side is a low moron, we really need to get that checked out. I tend to agree with some of what she's saying. Vice President Kamala Harris is a seasoned prosecutor. This is not her first debate. She has run for office, the Senate. She ran to be the state's attorney general. So there's a lot of debating that she has under her belt. Not to mention, she is a prosecutor. That job is literally to debate. So there is that. Let's go to another comment. Someone else said, I'm watching the advertisement for the presidential debate during the Lions game, and it's solidified for me now. The debate isn't for the voters. The debate's purpose is giving the media something to talk about. It's why they don't call out obvious nonsense. I get it. I get what he's saying. Like I said in the beginning, this is like the Super Bowl for the mainstream media. They're going to talk about this debate from Tuesday all the way until the end of the week on Sunday. This is going to be an ongoing discussion. They're going to dissect it, break it down, and everything else in between. Someone else said the presidential debate is tomorrow. I wonder what Trump is going to outline, what policy he wants to put in place, and how he will fix the economy. I think we already have the answer to that. It's just a matter of him answering the question. I think everybody is pretty clear on Donald Trump's policy. He oftentimes incoherently plugs it here and there when you can't understand what he's saying. But hey, if the debate brings that out of it, that'll be great news for everybody that has been paying attention. Someone else said it's presidential debate in America this week. Kamala Harris of the Democratic Party versus Donald Trump of the Republican Party. It's going to be a real showdown. I watched the latest debate, Biden versus Trump, from Colorado, USA. This week I'll be watching from Johannesburg. So people are definitely going to be tuning in. Someone else said, will you be fact-checking the presidential debate in real time? The candidates need to be accountable for what they say in the moment. Most people believe whatever they hear on TV. Doing it after the fact is useless. I agree that doing it after the fact is useless because once a debate is off, most people tend to tune out. It is literally, it's almost impossible to fact-check Donald Trump in real time because he just fires it off. Everything he just fires off, and some people know that what he's saying is not true and other people aren't so familiar. So to try and fact check him in real time, I don't know if that's something that they can do or they would be successful at doing. Kamala Harris can try and do it the best of her ability, but I do not think she should chase him down the fact checking rabbit hole because people will say she avoided answering the question. So there is that. Someone else says, I see a lot of fraudsters and disingenuous people all over the internet needing to see the presidential debate before making the decision. Really? 4 years of the Trump administration didn't show you enough? No presidential debate necessary. I'm voting for the adult Vice President Harris. I completely understand what he's saying. I think that anybody who's been paying attention, this is Donald Trump's third time running for president. I think we are fully aware of who he is and what his position is on a plethora of issues. Even though Donald Trump tends to flip-flop, especially on the subject of abortion, we kind of know that he is for tax breaks for corporations and the wealthy. He loves to talk about tariffs and how China pays for them, even though Americans pay for that. Another subject for another day, but what you see is what you're going to get from Donald Trump. He's made it very clear who he is as a candidate. So I'm excited to see how this debate is going to play out. I know the bar is set very high for Vice President Kamala Harris because, of course, and for Donald Trump, it is what it is. So I will be back on Wednesday to give all the breakdown and the highlights from Tuesday night's debate. Don't forget to tune in. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Bye, guys.